December the 16th, 2024. The first item on the agenda is to approve as a correct record and to authorise the Chair to sign the minutes of the Council meeting of the 16th of September. I'm sorry.
Please do.
I seem to be making an early start upon making mistakes, so get my mistakes over and done with, I hope. The first thing, of course, I should ask you is, do you approve these as a correct record of the meeting? That's so the fact that I've signed them prematurely is therefore of no great significance. Okay? Right. Okay. So, are there any apologies to absence, please?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Creaser.
Thank you. Are there any others? No? All right. Now we come to disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures by members of disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests, non-registrable interests in matters on the agenda, and the nature of any interest and details of any dispensations obtained? Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to declare an interest in item 7, the assets disposal, as Vice Chairman of Battletown Council.
Thank you very much. And are there no dispensations obtained in relation to that, presumably?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you. Are there anything? Yes, Councillor Burton.
Similarly, for item 7, declare an interest as a member of Battletown Council for the asset disposal policy.
Thank you very much. Councillor Drayson.
Same chairman as a member of Bexhill Town Council.
Thank you very much. Yes, please, yeah.
As a member of Bexhill Town Council.
Thank you very much. Are there any further disclosures, please? Councillor Byrne.
Thank you. Member of Bexhill Town Council.
Thank you. And online, I should explain that because there's a problem with the connection, it's impossible for us to see directly who is online, but in fact, up here, the Chief Executive has got access to this information, so you won't be able to see people. And so online there is? Councillor Tempe. Yes?
Yeah.
Let's start with Councillor Tempe. What's your declaration, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Member of Bexhill Town Council.
Thank you. Okay, other councillors are online but not declaring an interest. Okay, so now we come to the next one, which is my comments. I have an interest, yes, as chair of the Housing Company, and when that item comes onto the agenda later on tonight, I will yield the chair to the vice chair, but will remain in the room. Okay, so that's what will happen there. And can I remind you also to redeclare when the items come up on the agenda?
Chair, we do need to say who is online.
Okay, so online we have
Councillor Kirby Green.
Councillor Kirby Green online,
Councillor Colleen.
Councillor Colleen, and Councillor Giawan. As well as Councillor Timpey that we said earlier. Right? Okay. Now we come to my own remarks. And as you would have noted, I sent everybody a list of the engagements I have had. And I've had no less than 35 engagements. Now, we set a record last time, I think, for an extremely short council meeting. And obviously the agenda tonight could be considerably longer. And so I don't want to prolong it to the extent of going through 35 items. So what I will do is I will simply give you a number of remarks in connection with those things. Can I also say that I took part in the Santa Run to raise money for the food bank, and so if anybody would wish to kind of contribute towards that, that would be very much appreciated. Okay, just hold on for a moment whilst I get back into where I have this. This is the disadvantage of technology. If this was on paper, there would be no problem. It's worked. Okay, here we go. All right, Winston Churchill said that democracy was the worst system of government in the world until you consider the alternatives. So I want to spend a bit of time today considering the alternative to the alternatives. I'd like to spend a few minutes thanking those who make it work, starting close to home. When people feel unhappy, it's easy to find a target for anger, and throughout the world, this has meant the rise of populism and nationalism, and sometimes misdirected and sometimes deserved discontent. When I visited Sidley recently, one member of the public said to me, the councillors aren't bad people. They're good people doing their best in difficult economic circumstances. I like to believe this is true, so I'd like to start my thanks with you, the Rother District councillors, who attend a formidable number of meetings, read the luminous documents, and debate and discuss with professionalism and courtesy. And then it is right to record on your behalf our appreciation of the often Herculean efforts of Lorna Thor and the officers as they struggle with the effects of straitened financial circumstances to deliver the services upon which we all depend. My individual thanks to my brilliant Vice Chair, Andrew Mair, he didn't know I was going to say that, and I can't say how much we both owe to Eleanor Drew, our indefatigable and imperturbable organiser. And in the role of Chair, I see the vigour and dedication of volunteers everywhere, from the Sidley Partnership, the parish councillors, in Rye, Three Oaks, throughout Rother, and how much they achieve to make lives richer and better. To say it is heartwarming to witness would be an understatement. I would like to pick out a few themes which present themselves. The first is an emphasis upon inclusion. We see this in the creative project of the beach garden, making the beach significantly accessible for all. I saw a new play park designed by the children themselves so it could be enjoyed by all. Then at Rye there is Sailability, where that charity will be acquiring a boat with a prow that can be lowered to permit wheelchair access so all can enjoy the pleasure of sailing. So that takes me to the second theme, that of pleasure itself. Whether seeing how much children enjoy a play park, the joy that pensioners get using a revamped village meeting hall, people singing together, or playing table tennis together, or the sense of joy sweeping a whole community, as at Sidley or Old Town, it's worth noting how community efforts bring pleasure as well as relief. They enhance the quality of life. They help people, you might say, to live well locally. My third theme is progress. It's always easy to be nostalgic about those supposedly good old days, sepia-toned memories bathed in an evening afterglow. But it's more important to look forward. Take, for example, the new Coombe Valley Hospital, which will bring state-of-the-art mental health care to the district. So thank you for letting me have the privilege of doing one of the best jobs in the world. Saying thanks, receiving thanks, and being a witness to all that people do on our behalf. Finally, given the potential length of the agenda, may I remind you that brevity is the soul of wit, and may I wish you, after a beast of the year, regardless of your belief systems, a very happy and peaceful Christmas. Now we come to item 5, to answer questions from members of the public in accordance with paragraph 10 of the Council Procedural Rules. So who is going to be asking question 1, please? I think it's Councillor Jacqueline.
Thank you. I'm here as Nigel Jack Glenn, not Councillor Jack Glenn, on behalf of the No to North Eye campaign.
Thank you. Thank you for the correction.
I'm writing following the publication of the National Audit Inquiry into the Home Office's purchase of the North Eye site and the subsequent public inquiry, the open evidence session of which was held last Monday, the 9th of December. Can you share any updates on the Home Office's plans for the site?
Councillor Oliver to answer, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Jacqueline. Rother District Council understands from the information given at the Public Accounts Committee on Monday the 9th by the Home Office that ministers decided only recently that the site is no longer needed by the Home Office either for detained or non-detained accommodation. It is further understood that the Home Office will now be speaking with other colleagues across the property function to see if there would be it would be suitable for any other part of government, and if not, the department will put it on the open market. It should be made clear that Rother District Council does not own the site, but looks forward to a discussion with the Home Office regarding the future use of the site. As soon as there is any news for the future use of the site, the Council will announce this through its usual communication channels.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Mr Jacklin, do you wish to put a supplementary question to Councillor Oliver arising out of the answer given?
Yes, please. Firstly, thank you. And what a relief. They're not going to use it. My follow-up question concerns what you will be saying, if anything, to the Home Office on behalf of residents in the further discussions you are looking forward to. So we attended the inquiry hearing last Monday, and I'll refer to that in due course. We made a submission. We presented a petition to you back here in September 2023 and asked you to say no to North Eye on behalf of residents. We also asked you to take a stand on behalf of local councils across the UK opposing the use of emergency legislation that bypassed you and made you redundant. Your response at the time felt rather non-committal. In our submission to the inquiry last week, we asked...
Sorry, Mr Jackson, if I could just interrupt you, please. Your supplementary question should follow up on what Councillor Oliver said and not stray on to other matters. Could I ask you, please, to sort of summarise your preamble to your question and get to the question as quickly as possible, please?
Okay. We sorted out the bit on behalf of local councils because the Home Office agreed that they will communicate and consult. I'll leave it to you to feel whether they have communicated with you in the past week and provided you with details that we've been able to publish. We really want to know, what are you going to say on behalf of the local residents? Are you going to voice the concern that we expressed to you, or are you going to say nothing? We also provided them with a list of names...
Sorry, Mr Jackson, I had already suggested to you get to the question, and it sounds to me as if you're making a speech. Could you please get to your supplementary question, which should relate to the answer already given by Councillor Oliver? Thank you.
What will you be saying on behalf of the residents to the Home Office?
Well, thank you for that. I sort of got the gist of what you were asking, but until we know what the Home Office or government are proposing to do, we can make no statement.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver, and thank you, Mr Jacklin, for submitting your question and for your supplementary question. If you so wish, you're of course free to remain for the rest of the meeting, but otherwise, if you wish to leave, obviously you're free to do that as well. Do I have a second question, please? Councillor Osborne?
Thank you, Chairman. Member question from myself for the benefit of anybody on the YouTube or whatever. I should read the question. Given that it is now over a year since Pontins in Canberra closed, with the inevitable massive loss of visitors staying and spending money with the businesses in Canberra, does the Cabinet member have any updates for the local ward members that we can pass on to residents of the said village and the parish councillors? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Councillor Bayliss to respond.
Thank you very much, Councillor Osborne. I promised you a year ago that I'd do everything in my power to try and resolve the situation and deal with the fallout from the closure of Pontins. And I can say that not a week passes without a conversation about Pontins, either at our leaders' meeting or with our estates team. It's been very frustrating. Officers have tried repeatedly to engage with the leaseholder, who, let not forget, made the decision to close the site. We have made persistent attempts to establish communications with the leaseholder, including consulting with local authority officers in other areas of the country with closed sites and where there has been a lack of engagement. Having said that, there is some good news. Following an initiative from local Hastings and Rye MP Helena Dolimore, we have finally been successful in securing a response from the leaseholder, and a meeting is taking place this week, facilitated by Helena. The council will offer the leaseholder its full support to either make the necessary investment into the site to reopen it, or alternatively sell the site to an investor who's capable of doing that. We feel the site continues to offer an exciting and lucrative business opportunity within one of the country's most popular seaside destinations, and feel confident that with our support, the site will continue to protect and enhance the landscape, grow the economy, and create much needed jobs for local people. Again, on a more positive note, Councillor Osborne, I know you will welcome the Council's recognition of the need to invest in Canberra, its residents and businesses. In the spring, work will start on redeveloping the Council's facilities alongside an investment of £2 million in a new welcome centre in Canberra car park. This will provide an all-year-round tourist attraction which will go some way towards mitigating the loss of pontins to the local economy. Again, I thank you for your question, and I commit to updating you following the meeting with the leaseholders this week.
Thank you, Councillor Bayliss. Councillor Osborne, do you have a supplementary question arising out of that answer?
No, I don't have a supplementary question, Chairman. What I will do is thank Councillor Bayliss for a very comprehensive answer. Obviously, she knows the frustration that Councillor Hackett and I have on a monthly basis with the residents of Canberra and the Parish Council, and hopefully that question and the meeting that's going to take place this week will be positive. So thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.
And thank you, Councillor Bayliss, that very comprehensive answer. And of course, you will be staying anyway as a councillor. All right, so now we come to item 7. And this is to receive the report of the Cabinet on matters for determination by full council at its meetings held on the 4th of November and the 9th of December. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move that reports of Cabinet meetings held on the 4th of November and the 9th of December be approved and adopted. There were no recommendations arising from the meeting held on the 7th of October.
Councillor Oliver, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Gray, thank you very much. I will now proceed to call over the items. So here we go. First up, the 4th of November, CB 2443, Digital and Customer Services Strategy. Nobody? CB 2444, the Asset Disposal Policy. Again, nobody. CB 2445, the Revenue Budget and Capital Programme Monitoring for month 5, 2024 to 25. Again, nobody. So now we come to December. CB 2451, the Council Plan for 2025 to 28. Councillor Groan. Yes? Okay, so that's... So...
it's Councillor Gordon calling the Council Plan in. Aspirations of the Council Plan are unaffordable. Well, I'd like to...
just going through to the next item. Yeah? Okay, so the next one then is CB 2452, the appointment of the member to East Sussex Energy, Infrastructure and Development Limited. Nobody on that item either. And so, I therefore move that the whole of the report, with the exception of the reserved minute, be approved and adopted. Is there a seconder to that, please? There is, thank you. So now I shall now proceed. Sorry. All those in favour then of adopting that with the exception of the reserve, thank you. And those against, and any abstentions. So I declare that carried. And now we come to the reserved minute. Now your turn, Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Chair. Try that one again, shall we? Thank you, Chair. I'd like to call the Council Plan in. The aspirations of the Council Plan are unaffordable. and I request a recorded vote. Thank you.
I need a seconder for that, please. Is there a seconder? There is, thank you. Thank you. Right. And so a recorded vote, I will need 4 people to answer that. So if there are 4 people who are desirous of the recorded vote, would you please stand? We have 3. We now have 4. Okay, so there will be a recorded vote on this matter. Okay. We now come to the debate on that minute. Who would like to speak on that debate, please? Yes, Councillor Maynard.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. And whilst the council plan is a thorough document and a long read, I think that on this side of the chamber, we've always been very clear that whether it's a corporate plan, a council plan, that what is within that plan should be tangible, should be clear, should be concise in terms of if a resident is looking at the plan and wanting to know what the district council is going to deliver. And on this side of the chamber, when we've constructed these plans, when we were in power prior to 2019, we've always been very clear that as a document it should be exactly that. I think that in the last plan, this administration, which we didn't support, it was very clear a far more political document with the aspirations of the council, and indeed that is the case now in this current iteration of the council plan. And I think on this side of the chamber we feel that we've got to be brutally honest with the public in terms of what can be achieved and what can be done. And we fundamentally believe that there are some aspirations within the plan that aren't deliverable because of cost. And it's far better to be honest with the electorate rather than to try and mislead them and to say that we can do this or we can do that. And in terms of the savings that we believe that this council should have been making right back in 2019 when the party opposite took control. If you'd let me speak through you, Chairman. But party opposite, the administration...
Sorry, Councillor Matthews, hold on to me, please. Can I just remind councillors that when one person has the floor, they have exactly that. So please do not interrupt speakers when they're in the middle of their speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And we have reminded through the scrutinies year after year after year that this council needs to be honest and face up to the savings that it needs to make. Those savings haven't taken place, and we find ourselves in the situation we are today in terms of the budget going forward. And we honestly believe that in terms of the council plan, it needs to contain that honesty in terms of what your local council can achieve for you. And we believe, quite frankly, that some of those aspirations with the document are unachievable, and for that reason we won't be supporting the council plan as is. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Councillor Field, I believe you've indicated.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I did, because quite honestly, I'm slightly flummoxed by this. Of all the items that we should be discussing in the Cabinet agenda today, that wasn't the one I thought would get called. And I don't really understand Councillor Gordon's comment that the aspirations will cost too much, because it's an aspiration of how we want to see the council running, and an aspiration is not a commitment to spend. And those who have been in power before know that underpinning all the plans that we put forward and all our policy documents are detailed action plans saying how we will achieve these things. I think the plan is predictably political. I don't think previous council plans under any administration have been apolitical, because they're driven by politicians who have divergent views on how things should be done. I would very much support this council plan, and certainly I'm surprised it's even being discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Field. Any speaker on the opposite side? Councillor Barnes, please.
I do find it very odd, Chairman, that we are debating a council plan when our council is not likely to exist to deliver that plan. So let us begin with the reality of today's devolution white paper. This will be for an incoming unitary council unless we are successful in the local association district councils
in torpedoing the government's proposals. So my first worry about talking about this tonight is we're talking about an aspiration which we shan't be around to actually begin to monitor or deliver. But when I read through it, and there is a statement here that overview and scrutiny will monitor this annually, and what are we to monitor in terms of deliverable targets? This is not a plan. It is not even a strategy. It is a set of aspirations, many of them worthwhile. But I wait to see deliverable targets before I am prepared to actually vote. And deliverable targets will also need financial details attached to them. We have run into a difficult financial situation, not through our own lack of success in delivering savings in the last year, although that is still some way short of target, but nearly £1 million of other expenses have occurred, blowing out of the wind and torpedoing, I think, the hope of actually living within our means for yet another year. So I want to see a robust strategic plan with deliverable targets that actually is real, but I'm afraid it will not be for us to do it. It will be for the Unitary Authority, because I fear this government is intent on doing away with local authorities of district size.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. And can I just point out that the reason why I'm wearing a dark suit is not because I'm in mourning for the District Council, but simply because it's somewhat warmer than the light suit I usually wear. Do I have the speaker on the other side, please? Do I have the speaker on this side? Do I have the speaker wishing to agree with Councillor Barnes' statement? I don't, in which case we now move to the vote, okay? So those in favour of the amendment, could you please show? Sorry?
Recorded vote.
Yes, I'm sorry, there's been a request for recorded vote, so my apologies for that. No, it's not. It's a yes, yeah.
Can you clarify which way is for and which is against?
Yeah, certainly. And so basically, what we're going to be voting on is whether we are happy with the Cabinet report or whether we take the criticisms of it on the other side. So though I shall take it that those who are in favour of the court order, could they please show? And so if you're... All right, okay. So what is going to happen now is the names... So it's good to see here that having made a mistake at the beginning, I am proceeding as I went on. So now we come to the point where there will be a recorded vote. So Lisa Cooper will call out the name of each person, and then please let her know which way you'll be voting. Yes, for or against.
Thank you, Chair. I shall read out the names of all members in alphabetical order, and please answer for, against, or abstain. And just to remind you, those members online are not entitled to vote, so I will not be calling out your names. John Barnes.
Against.
Mary Barnes. Against. Bayliss. For. Biggs.
Against.
Burton. For. Byrne.
For.
Chowdhury.
For.
Clark.
For.
Coleman.
For.
Mrs Cook. For. Delaney.
For.
Drayson. For. Field. Ganley. Gordon. Gray. For. Groner. Hacking. Hayward. Legg.
For.
Maynard. McCourt. McGurk. Mear.
For.
Oliver. Osborne. Pearce.
For.
Proshak. For. Rathbone Ariel.
For.
Stanger.
For.
Thomas
Or
and Winter.
It's carried.
the motion is carried. Thank you very much. So now we come to the item concerning the planning committee. Okay. Now this was at a third motion, and it arose on the the council meeting on the 20th of May, and it arose from the Audit and Standards Committee meeting held in March 2024. And this is concerning the size and makeup of the planning committee. What I intend to do is to follow the precedent on this and take each item separately with a separate vote, okay, on each part. So, Councillor Drayson, now, can you please move that a third motion, as set out in Appendix B, be approved and adopted? Councillor Drayson, please.
Sorry, Chair, I just want to check that is correct. I thought the Chief Exec was presenting the report. I'll do it, but
I wasn't aware of that, sorry.
Well, I have your
let me
name
get back
down.
to my page.
I have your name down as doing it. You were, of course, responsible for the original recommendation from the committee.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry, I was on a different page. So I'd like to move all three, and then you were going to take a separate vote, yes? So the first recommendation for the Audit Standards Committee was that the number of members appointed to the Planning Committee be 10, to take effect from the first meeting in the new civic year 24-25. That's the 30th of May. 2, to regard be given by group leaders when nominating committee members to rural and urban balance of the planning committee members, due to the varied topography of the district, plus representation of smaller towns. And 3, that no member of the cabinet be appointed as either a substantive or substitute member of the planning committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Cook.
Sorry, Chairman, may I speak? On the agenda, we actually have 5 recommendations, so we're a little bit confused. I wonder if you could satisfy our confusion for us.
What I'm suggesting, actually, is that we allow a debate on the whole proposal, and then when it comes to the actual vote, that I take proposals one at a time, which I think was the same procedure followed at, I think it was the Overdue and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Drayson?
Chairman, I may have added to the confusion. I thought this was agenda item 7, which is the deferred motion, and it's not 8, which is the current audit and standards. It's agenda item 7.
Yes, we are in the right place. It is agenda item 8. I'm going to ask Lisa Cooper just to say a word or two at this point.
Can I ask what's happened to agenda item 7, please? Thank you.
We've done that. We've done.
Sorry, I found another one. I must be getting the wrong order. Sorry.
We have done item 7. Yeah?
Sorry, I've confused it all.
Yeah.
Your mistakes are catching. So this is agenda item 8. No, 8. Which is the numbers, isn't it? Yeah, so sorry, agenda item 8 was...
Yes, we are in the right place.
Yeah.
We've done item 7.
And I've only seen, I can only find the 3 recommendations that I just called out. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, item 4 was the views of members be sought with an informal Teams meeting in due course and comments received. That was done, which is why I don't think it's on a recommendation for tonight's committee, for full council. And that 5, the Chief Executive be authorised to make all necessary amendments to the Council's constitution to reflect the new size of the committee, subject to full council approval.
Right, okay, so now we come to the debate on that, okay? Yeah? And so I'm taking any speeches in relation to this proposal about changes to the planning committee. Councillor Gandy first, please.
A later item, the Appendix A, actually, to the Ordnance Standards Committee report of 24th of March, it speaks of the most effective planning committees tended to be smaller, under 10 members. What evidence is there to support that contention? I have not seen any, so I'm not persuaded by that. Nor am I really persuaded that all cabinet members need to be excluded from the, well, that will come later. I think I'll limit myself to that point. There has been no evidence provided to support the contention that the most effective planning committees tended to be the smaller committees.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Maynard, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. And I don't aim to repeat the same debate that we've had previously in this chamber, save for the fact that it does seem to me that this is being pushed by some groups within this council that are having trouble filling roles, slots on the cabinet, on the planning committee with members from their respective groups. But the reality is, Chairman, that this is a very diverse, in terms of the geography of this district, 199 square miles, with obviously a number of villages, 2 small towns, 1 large town, and very different areas. And I think it's hugely important that we ensure, as we go forward, that we have representation from all areas, and to put it into, as we have in the agenda item today, that you're relying on group leaders to try and make sure it's representative, but you might not actually, end up with that because it's not clear and it's not absolute that has to be the case. And I think that by having the existing planning committee, where we have seen over the years that we have reduced it in size as well, Chairman, in the past. I think it reduced from 16 to 14 around about 2008, 2009. But the 14, I think, to go any lower, Chairman, carries considerable risk that all areas will not be represented. And I think that, as I've said before, and I think this particular point is worth repeating, that it is beholden upon us to thank those members of the Planning Committee for the enormous amount of work that they do on that committee. And quite frankly, the size of the Planning Committee isn't the problem within the Planning Committee. We have identified, and we've had that seminar that we had, that closed seminar with members. The size of the committee, Chairman, isn't the problem. There are issues around training of members. There are issues around the public speaking that need to be addressed. But the size of the committee isn't the issue. Thank you, Chairman. And that's why we will not be supporting reducing the number of the Planning Committee.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. Do I have another speaker on this subject, please? I think Councillor Clark was the first.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, there's definitely an argument for and against whether it's 10 or more, but I think we'll look to the future, as Councillor Barnes said. I'm more concerned that if Labour wants to achieve their housing targets, then local planning committees are going to either be relevant or not going to last very long. So, we may be worrying about things which are going to be out of our control shortly.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Do I have another speaker, please? Councillor Prochak.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the comments that Councillor Clark made are relevant, but we need to get on with the job now. What's in front of us, any kind of reorganisation is going to take a long time, and things may change hugely. But what I wanted to comment on is that this council has debated this several times, both internally and in scrutiny and in cabinet. It's been gone through and through. And the thing was, and Councillor Ganley said he hasn't had the evidence, but actually what we did, quite sensibly, is we hired an outsider
an expert from the Planning Advisory Service who knew what she was talking about, who had all the evidence, and certainly size was one of them. Councillor Maynard talks about other problems, and that's true, there are other problems, but we are dealing with those. The comment I wanted to make as well is that I'm not sure, and perhaps the Chief Executive can advise, is there a way that we will assess this? If we change it, is there going to be a review where we look at it and say what's gone well and what hasn't perhaps gone well? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Projak, and I'm sure I speak for the entire council when I say how pleased we all are to see you back in action. Thank you. Great to see you. Okay,
Chairman, sorry, Chairman, I'm going to be very cheeky and just thank you for that, but also thank members cross-party for all their kindness and support. I really appreciated it. And the other thing that I really appreciated, I'm sorry, I'm out of order, I know, is officers. We are only as good as our officers. And I really, really appreciated that when I couldn't actually be active in the chamber, because we have some officers that are like gold.
Again, I'm sure that everybody would like to endorse that warm and deserved commendation. Thank you, Councillor. Yes, Lorna Thorpe would like to say something, please.
Thank you, Chair. I know it's unusual for an officer to speak at full council, but you did ask me a direct question, Councillor Projak, and the intention is that Gillian Big-Guinness, who's here in the chamber tonight, will come back and conduct a review of the implementations of the recommendations from her report in about a year's time. Thank you.
I stress it's perfectly in order for a councillor to ask a question of an officer and for the officer to respond, as happened there. I think it's Councillor Drayson next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make an observation on two and the rural-urban split balance. As Chairman of Planning, I want to say I don't see that. I don't see that at a committee meeting. The members do their best to decide on what's best for the whole of Rother. I just wanted to make that quite clear. It might be perceived out there, but the members of the committee are not urban-rural split. They are members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Drayson. Councillor Barnes.
I agree, actually, with Councillor Drayson that we do not usually divide up planning on urban-rural. But the debate benefits because people actually bring to bear their knowledge of particular areas with the best will in the world. In a highly diverse district, no member is really going to be as familiar. It's one of the reasons why I supported Councillor Projak, and she is very welcome back. I supported her in public speaking rights for parish councils. And to some extent, that is a substitute for member experience. But when you really look at a district which actually has everything from Ramsars through to heritage sites, through to a heritage landscape, which is late medieval in character, and itself contains large villages like Ticehurst and Robertsbridge. And then you look at Bexhill, which itself seems to me a town of very different character as you move through from Coodney all the way to Sidley. It seems to me we are taking a step too far. A compromise was suggested at one stage that we did actually reduce to 12, but I think that ran into problems because of the insistence that this is a committee that must be politically balanced. And the other problem is we were not really able to take this in divorcement from the statement about cabinet members. I personally think there are only 3 cabinet members that necessarily should not be on the planning committee. The others, I think it's immaterial. The chances, I think, that some of the cabinet members will have a conflict of interest are infinitesimal. They will probably be more likely to have a conflict of interest because of their ward interest rather than anything else, and that is true of all of us. I personally would have liked to experiment with the 12. As it is, I think 10 is going too far. We have Rye, we have Battle, we have Ticehurst, to name the 3 largest settlements. None of those, nor Burwash, are really typical of large areas of my constituency. And I personally think that we do need proof that this will be more efficient. 8 is probably the break point at which the first size of committee becomes inefficient.
Sorry, Councillor.
I'm sorry.
10 seconds left.
I will sit down.
Thank you very much. Thank you. In order, I think we now have Councillor Coleman, Councillor Thild and Councillor Cook. So Councillor Coleman first, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think the purpose of the planning committee members is to make an objective decision based on planning law and effectively to scrutinise the officer reports to make sure that they comply with members' understanding of that planning law and where there is a balance to strike that balance. I think the role of local representation in terms of knowing an area, in terms of speaking to that area's character, to the will or otherwise of residents in that area, is for the ward members who get to speak at planning and for the parish councils who get to speak at planning. And I think that's where the focus should be on improving local representation, is making sure ward members are trained in planning so that they understand how planning committee works. And as member development training champion is one of the things I'm going to be bringing to the next meeting, which is to encourage more members to attend planning training even if they're not on the committee. And then for the parish councils to also be enabled to attend more planning committee meetings where they can then speak to issues that face their residents and to their locality as a parish council. But it's not for planning members to speak as representatives of their areas in a planning committee meeting. That's not their role. Now, it might be that you need to balance perceptions of this so-called urban-rural divide, but I think that can be done perfectly adequately with 10 members. I think that allows for a diverse enough pool of members that there can be no sort of doubt about the integrity of our planning committee. But the role of local representation is not the planning committee's job. That's the job of the ward members and the parish councils who speak at those meetings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Councillor Thild next, please.
Thank you. I do agree with much of what Councillor Coleman has just said. If we are going to be truly representative across this area of everybody, we need everybody to be a member of the planning committee. I don't think anybody here would think that was a sensible alternative. It'd be very unwieldy. My personal preference is to trust those members of the planning committee to be trained, to understand their training, to understand the law pertaining to that training, and to make decisions based on that training. And as Councillor Coleman said, the local interest comes from the ward member making representations. And as one such who comes now and then, I have witnessed the planning committee not doing what I wanted them to, but finding reasons in a planning context of making decisions based on their training and what is best for the district based on that training. So I believe that this is exactly the right way to go forward, and I don't think that political balance is a matter of desire. I thought it was a matter of the law. I thought what is called Widdicombe rules applies to any committee in a council which has to be politically balanced because they're voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thild, and it's now Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chair. I understood when we began this debate that we were going to take each of these points that Councillor Drayson made separately, in which case I would like to second the proposal on recommendation 1 that the planning committee should be reduced by up to 4 people.
Councillor Cook, just to clarify, I suggested a general debate to begin with, but when we get to the vote, we split the individual items. Okay, and so now it's Councillor Mear.
Chair, thank you. I'd start on the question of cabinet membership of the committee with an observation which goes slightly beyond that, and that is that there is at present no one in the cabinet who has responsible for the development management side of planning. And I think that is a real weakness in that the planning committee concerns aren't easily transmitted to the cabinet through an informal means. But that is not on the agenda for tonight. So far as debarring cabinet members from sitting on the planning committee, that is a practice which is not prohibited by probity and planning, except for the cabinet member with responsibility for planning policy and presumably site allocations. It not being prohibited, I think we need to think about why we are doing it. Now, it may be that the present incumbents of the cabinet roles find it difficult to take too much on or have other commitments. That shouldn't be a reason for having an inflexible rule. It may be a reason why the individual doesn't or shouldn't, but it shouldn't be in the Constitution, and it shouldn't prevent a cabinet member from sitting if necessary. Cabinet members have sat with great success in the past, including the deputy leader, and I have very much respected the contributions those cabinet members have made. They tend, on the whole, to be more experienced and able members of the council, and I think it would be a great shame to debar them from sitting on the planning committee. We are in danger of institutionalising a weaker committee by not having the strongest members of the council available to sit on it. And I suggest that perhaps we don't need to make that rule, but simply to note it when seats are being allocated, that it is known that cabinet members do have a lot of other commitments. On the numbers of, I'm somewhat agnostic on the numbers on the committee. It is true that in my experience, the town members, I'm a rural member, the town members have been very fair and very generous and have given great consideration to rural issues. But it's not just a question of that, it's a question of public perception. And if the wider district is not represented, and I know that board members can make representations, but it's not quite the same thing as having that depth of knowledge and experience of the planning system that is gained by being on the committee. I'm probably not completely against.
10 seconds.
I'm not totally against it, but I do have reservations, and when that comes up for review, I think we should look again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mayor. Councillor Byrne is next, and then Councillor Gandy, and I also have Councillor Kirby Green online after that. Councillor Byrne, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. First of all, I think both Councillor Coleman and Councillor Field outlined the purpose of the Planning Committee very, very well indeed. And they made reference to, and this is what I want to underline, how important it is to have input from the parishes, but input from the parishes at an early stage, such that when a report comes before the Planning Committee, then members without the local knowledge can be safe, if you like, in the knowledge that these reports have been scrutinised by the relevant parish councils, by the ward councillors. And if we as I declare as a member of the Planning Committee and as a member of Bexhill-on-Sea Town Council, I certainly will be doing my best to make sure that Bexhill scrutinises those plans which are relevant to Bexhill and get our input in at an early stage, so that we can all be confident that when a report comes to council, comes to committee, the Planning Committee, those issues have been considered and the officer's decision is contains a weighting commensurate with the amount of representation they've had from ward members and parish councils. Thank you.
Councillor, thank you very much, Councillor Byrne. I understand, Councillor Drayson, that you have a point of order.
Sorry, Chair, it was going to be before you move to the vote. When I moved this, people were telling me Appendix A, Appendix A. The recommendations are in Appendix B. There are just 3 of them. It's in Appendix B and it's in paragraph 2 of the introduction. It is just the 3 that I want to make sure you just vote on the 3 that are in Appendix B and not what I was forced to say out of Appendix A. Thank you.
Councillor Jason, I believe there is a fourth one, actually, which is the one that reads, the Chief Executive be authorised to make all necessary amendments to the Council's constitution to reflect the new size of the committee, subject to full Council approval. So in other words, if we pass the other amendment, there'll be a need to alter the constitution accordingly. So that will be put as an amendment in itself. Okay. Right, now, Councillor Ganley, I think, is next.
Chairman, Councillor Coleman in his statement said that planning committee members should vote in accordance with planning law. I'd just like to add to that they should also vote in accordance with planning policy, this council's policy. A small point, an important point nevertheless. I agree with Councillor Meir with regard to the exclusion of cabinet members from the planning committee. I can understand excluding the cabinet member responsible for planning, obviously. However, I believe cabinet members should be allowed to be on the planning committee. They can make a declaration of interest, should they have an interest, which might bias them, and they should do so, as they should in any meeting. So I can't see a reason for excluding all cabinet members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ganley. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to call Councillor Kirby Green. She's online. I do have one other speaker in the room, but because she has been waiting a very long time, I think it's time to reward her patience. So, Councillor Kirby Green, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of things. Yes, I would agree with Councillor Meyer. We've gone a whole 360 because in the last administration, when I remember Councillor Hart queried the portfolio holder for strategic planning also being the chair of planning, we were told we didn't know what we were talking about. And now we're saying that we're not going to have any cabinet member on planning. And I think as Councillor Meyer alluded to, just because members of the members of cabinet at the moment might not want to be on it for various reasons, I don't think that's a reason to say that we should preclude them forever. I mean, Councillor Ganley, I believe, was a cabinet member and a member on planning for a number of years, and I don't think it caused a problem at all. So I would query that. In terms of the numbers, I if I was there, I'd be voting against this tonight. I accept what Councillor Coleman says, but I still think we're such a diverse district. I know we've got a consultant that's come in, but there isn't actually any evidence we've been given to suggest it's more effective. I still feel that we are solving a problem that doesn't exist. There are issues with public speaking, yes, and the questioning, it goes on for a long time, but I think this is all based on one or two planning meetings that the consultant attended, and there obviously were one or two meetings which were rather tricky, but I think all of this is coming about because of that one or two meetings, and I think that reducing it to 10 is very low, and as Councillor Maynard said, this comment about we're going to make sure that leaders ensure that the balance is between urban and rural. You can't enforce that, but at the same time, as Councillor Drayson said, I don't think there's particularly much of when you're actually watching the planning committee, I don't think there is I think people are very fair, whether they're from urban or rural, but as Councillor Meyer said, I think it's a lot about perception to the public. And finally, the bit I'm really confused about is why we're rushing this all through before we have a new head of planning. I would have thought it was obvious sense to wait for a new head of planning to come in, because they may have, presumably is an experienced head of planning, he will have views. And I think that the government are also looking at planning committees. So I feel that we're rushing this all through very quickly. And I know people say we talked about it 3 months ago, we did, but I still feel that this is being done because the current situation is that one or two political parties can't resource the planning committee. And I think that we're making these definitive changes for specific reasons that I don't think are the right reasons to be reducing the planning committee. Thank you.
Councillor Kirby Green, can I say I apologise, there was an interruption there, which is now over. If you wish to say some more, we'd be delighted to hear from you.
No, I think I finished. Hopefully you heard it all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kirby-Green. I now have Councillor Oliver, followed by Councillor Stanger.
Thank you, Chair. I just really wanted to add the fact that from a reputational point of view, part of our planning process was getting quite a lot of criticism. And as a result of that, the Chief Executive was briefed on the basis that we needed to have a very, very thorough review of how we were operating. And we were very, very fortunate indeed to have the services of Gillian McInnes, somebody with the utmost respect nationally, to come in and look at the way we operated for the benefit of the reputation of the council and bringing forward that experience in order that we can benefit from it and discharge our duties. So I believe that's a very important point to realise. The other point that my colleague Councillor Meehan mentioned was the role of the planning lead. I think that the lead on cabinet does have a role for what you referred to, and it may be that you want to have a discussion with her to make sure that you're fully conversant with that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver, and it's now Councillor Stanger, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, one thing really, just when I attended planning training recently on the new proposed MPPF, we were the largest out of 28 councils as a committee size for the planning. So that just to highlight, within the 28 councils that were there for the training, we were joint highest out of the 28 councils in numbers wise. So, and also when the motion goes forward, I'd like to reinstate item 5 from Appendix A, which is the Chief Executive be authorised to make all necessary amendments to the Council's constitution to reflect the new size of the committee, subject to committee council's approval.
Councillor Bayliss, please. Thank you, Councillor Stanger.
Yes, thank you. I just actually want to sort of address some of the issues because being a cabinet member on planning, I have found it quite difficult. I am the cabinet member that's had to leave the chamber on 2 or 3 occasions because Rother District Council has got a planning application in, and that means that I have a conflict of interest. I accept the point that maybe some cabinet members have slightly less, if you like, conflict than, say, myself or the cabinet member for housing, for example. But that is a real issue because obviously, you know, you're not taking part. I would also like to address the thing that Councillor Kirby-Green mentioned, which is what problem are we trying to solve? Well, actually, the problem is we're losing too many appeals. It's costing the council hundreds of thousands of pounds, some of the legal fees in some of the appeals. And that is a real issue for us when we are looking at a budget where we're having to make cuts. Let's, you know, address some of those issues about why are we losing appeals. If you think if the inspector is saying that we've made a mistake, or that tells you a lot about are we working as effectively as we can. So that would be something that I've obviously picked up on. In terms of diversity, having daytime meetings for the planning committee, yes, it is difficult, Councillor Maynard, for myself to find enough members of the Labour group to go on planning. That's because a lot of a Labour group are working full time, and so that means that I can't consider them as part of a planning committee. Now, if you're thinking about diversity, we can think about it in rural terms, although I like to think that when I come out to Westfield and I have a look at planning applications in Westfield, that I can apply all the rules, the planning rules, and apply those. Or when I go out to Hurst Green, I can look at, you know, similarly in that way. But you've got a planning committee made up mainly of retired people. Mainly, there are some, you know, it's not, I'm looking at Councillor Stanger, no, but it is mainly retired people. And so you have and Councillor, sorry, Councillor Groner, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Councillor Groner it also works. But what I'm trying to say is,
20 seconds.
What I'm trying to say, if you're thinking of diversity, try and think about, the members you've got. So if you're going to change it, let's have evening meetings where people who are actually in employment can take part in the meeting. Thank you.
Can I just remind Council in general, please, that it is a debate, and none of you are here as commentators upon the contributions of everybody else. So can I now call Councillor Killeen, who's online, please? Certainly. Yes, certainly.
Thank you, Chairman. The point raised by Councillor Bayliss, which I've now forgotten about.
Can I just say, so it has to be a point of order rather than one about the content of speeches.
Okay, I beg your pardon.
Yes?
I withdraw.
Thank you, though. All right, so now we come to Councillor Killeen, please. Councillor Killeen?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I just want to confirm that, we employed an external expert for advice, and I think, we should take her advice. I think in many walks of life,
Sorry, Councillor Oliver, I've spoken to you once or twice during the course of this debate. Can I point out that you're not an exception to the rules of debate? No, goodness me, it is time for me to retire, people are right. Councillor Maynard, sorry. I have spoken to you a few times. Please, will you not speak when other people are speaking? It's a perfectly reasonable request, and I'm sure you'll be happy to comply with it. Thank you. Councillor Killeen.
Okay, yes, it was just, I just think if you ask for an objective external advice, then you do take that seriously, and we have put a review in place, so I think that should cover off a lot of people's concern. I think Councillor Burns' assessment of the need for external ward and parish council members to be better trained and they bring in the local knowledge is a very good point. Also, we've had excellent points from Councillors Coleman, Projac and Field on the need for, again, more training, better training, and that actually fewer councillors with better training would be much more effective. Councillor Stanger also has been a very good course just recently. Again, he comes back and says we are amongst the most and the largest committee in the country. So again, I just think we need to be looking to others as well to see where we fit into the scheme of things. And I think reducing our numbers is the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Killeen. I will now move to the vote, and I will read each of the recommendations to you. So the first recommendation reads as follows. The number of members appointed to the Planning Committee be 10. To take effect from the first meeting in the new year, which will not be as it is in your documents, it will be from 2025 to 2026. Okay, so that is the recommendation. Those in favour, please show.
Can I call a recorded vote on that one, please?
Can I say that we are already in the middle of the vote, and therefore I will continue with the vote. Those in favour, please show. And those against, please show. And finally, anybody abstaining, please.
Point of probity, Chairman. If a vote hasn't been taken, if a vote hasn't been taken, it's entirely in order for a member to stand and ask for a recorded vote. And never in my 25 years of being a local councillor have I ever been told to sit down through asking for the democratic process be applied properly.
Councillor Maynard, the process of taking a vote was quite clearly and demonstrably underway at the point at which you rose to make your proposal. If you wish to make that proposal, you should have done so earlier. You did not do so until the vote was underway. And so, as Chair, I'm sticking by my ruling that we were perfectly in order to proceed to the vote which was pretty conclusive. Can I just have the figures there, please?
I abstained.
20, 10 and 1 abstention.
It was, it was passed by 20 to 10 with 1 abstention. And now we move to the second piece, please, which is this. Regard be given by group leaders when nominating committee members to the rural-urban balance of the Planning Committee, members due to the varied topography of this district plus representation of the smaller towns. Those in favour of that, please show. And those against, please show. And abstentions. There are two abstentions. So on that one, we have 27 for, and we have 2 abstentions. And any against, do we have? No, none against. No, nobody against at all on that one. So now we come to the third one. Namely, no member of the Cabinet be appointed as either a substantive or substitute member. So that's a straightforward one. Can I see those in favour, please? And those against, please. And abstentions? Okay, so on that one it was 16 for, 11 against and 4 abstentions. And now we come to the one which sort of follows on from the other one, which is, here we go, it is that the Chief Executive be authorised to make all necessary amendments to the Council's constitution to reflect the new size of the committee, subject to full council approval. Those in favour, please show.
I think that's carried, Chair.
I think it's carried as well. Anybody against, please? And abstentions? I think we can call that conclusive. Can I just thank the Council for your debate on that motion, which I hope would strike anybody at home listening to it as a really professional, considered, thoughtful debate. And I'd like to thank all members of the Council, whatever your point of view, for the way in which that particular debate was conducted. Thank you very much indeed. So now we come to item 9, which is to receive the report of the Audit Committee on matters of determination by full Council at the meetings held on the 30th September and the 2nd of December. And it is again Councillor Drayson.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the recommendations from the Audit Committee meetings held on the 30th September and the 2nd of December.
And do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Gray. Can I also just check with Councillor Kirby-Green? According to the internet, it looks like you've got your hand up. I suspect it's a legacy hand, but could you confirm, please? It looks as if she's gone, so presumably my assumption was correct. Okay, I shall now call over the items. So, on the 30th September 2024, AC 24-6, so, Councillor, Councillor Ganley on that one, AC 24-7, Executive Procedure Rules, it's Councillor Osborne, yes. AC 24-7, Executive Procedure Rules, Amendment to the Constitution. Do I have anybody on that one? Nobody. AC 24-17, Proposed Changes to the Public Speaking Scheme at Planning Committee. AC 24-18, do I have anybody on that? Councillor Barnes on that one. Yes, public speaking. Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Then AC 24-18, Budget Saving Initiatives require. Councillor Osborne, thank you. And then AC 24-19, the Hybrid Licensing Panel Meetings. Anybody on that one? Nobody? Okay, so I move to hold the report now, with the exception of the reserved minute, be approved and adopted. Do I have a seconder, please? I do, thank you very much, Councillor Stanger. And can I put that to the vote? All those in favour, please show. Carried unanimously, I would say. So, and now I shall proceed to deal with the reserved minutes. And so we have a number of those. So how do we have the record who they were? Councillor Osborne was the first one. So that was 24-6, wasn't it? Councillor Osborne, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. If I may, on page 17, we've got the remote access to confidential sessions. In order to safeguard the integrity of confidential discussions, it is recommended that there should be no remote access by any member, including committee members who would join the meeting remotely, which in itself could seem like a good idea and a bit of security. From a point of view, personal point of view, I generally, as Chairman of Scrutiny, have in the past attended pretty much probably 90% of the Cabinet meetings. Now I attend remotely those Cabinet meetings to save on the costs. My only concern would be, and you sort of had the, the concern at last week's Cabinet meeting where you wasn't available and Councillor Mear wasn't available, so I could join online in case the meeting had to go into a confidential session. I could say I have no problem with that. I wouldn't be able to do that. So with that then, does that then require, potential drives to Bexhill just in case? That's just a point. When I sort of saw it there, I thought, well, maybe, there might be a question there. Is that a point, or am I just getting mixed in a twist? Thank you, Chair.
Very much, Councillor Osborne. Is there any other speaker on the Councillor Field, please?
Thank you, Chair. I have two concerns about this. First has been touched on by Councillor Osborne. A member is a member, and members are entitled to have access to confidential sessions. Therefore, I don't believe that is the right way to go forward. I think we should not be prohibited from attending remotely just because it's confidential. The thing that I found also difficult is that attending remotely shouldn't be counted as attendance at a meeting. Now, until the previous government changed the rules and said we could only vote in person, that didn't count. Members were members attending meetings regardless. And I still think that members should be allowed to, that's wrong, but it should be agreed that members who attend remotely have actually attended the meeting, because that's what they're for. And there may be many reasons why we don't want to come in person. Cost, as Councillor Osborne has said, emissions is another one, being ill. And I know some members today aren't here because they have physical complaints which are prohibiting them from accessing the meeting. So I think that is a mistake as well.
Thank you very much. Do I have any other speaker on this point? Councillor Coleman, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo Councillor Field's comments. I quite agree. And also I think that's where I have a bit of a concern about one of the recommendations where it's saying that when members aren't speaking in a meeting that they should have their cameras turned off and their microphones muted. And I understood the reason that cameras had to be left on is so to guarantee that they are actually in attendance in the meeting. And I think if we're going with what Councillor Field said in terms of allowing members full participation in meetings remotely, then we need to have that safeguard in place to make sure that members are actually present for the discussion on an item when they vote for it. And if cameras are off when members aren't speaking, I wonder how we can guarantee that they've not gone to grab a cup of tea and actually haven't heard the debate and are therefore voting without being part of the debate. But I'd welcome some clarification from the Chair of Audit, because I wasn't involved in that discussion, so I don't know where this has come from, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Coleman. Councillor Drayson, please.
Thank you. Just to highlight Councillor Coleman's point, on got changed to off, because if it doesn't count towards an attendance, there's no point. But if it becomes an attendance matter, then yes, the camera should be on. So it only got changed because of possibly moving to not counting as an attendance.
Councillor Maynard, I heard a noise there which sounded rather like a flying saucer. I suspect that we're not actually being invaded by extraterrestrials, so can I just remind members to be a bit cautious about the volume on there and the electronic apparatus they may have. Do I have a further speaker on this, please? Councillor Clark.
Yes, Chairman. I'm quite worried about this because very often when we have a meeting, first of all, we get an email saying, "Are you going to attend?" And we could get in a situation where the amount of people online is more than the people who are actually attending. It hasn't happened, but it could. And it's about decision making. If that decision by a small number of people was controversial, maybe the people who was online would have had a different view. So I think it's quite, I get really worried about if we're going to have more and more remote meetings because, and also there seems to be an agenda, which is fair enough to a point, to save money. If people don't attend, they won't pay their mileage allowance and sort of thing because they're sitting at home. But it's a democratic balance, isn't it? If you have a poorly attended meeting, you could get a decision there, which a lot of people sitting at home are not really agreeing with. So I think you've got to be a bit wary.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Are there any further speakers on this point? There being none, I shall now move to the vote. So we're voting whether or not we accept the recommendation. And so those in favour of accepting the recommendation, please show. And those against? So it's against it. Yeah. So those against have obviously won that particular point. So now we move to the next point, which is AC 2417, which I think is Councillor Barnes, please. It's yourself, surely. Proposed changes to the public speaking scheme at Planning Committee. Yourself.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on this. I'm very undecided whether to actually raise this because it seems to me that we're in danger of diagnosing the problems of the Planning Committee as entirely down to public speaking rights. In some ways, I can understand that because question time has gone on endlessly sometimes, and not everybody directs their questions to points which speakers can properly analyse. I'm glad, though, that we decided in the end that we would retain speaking rights, but I am worried about the size of the applications for which two speakers will be present. A point I made at audit, and I make it again, that this 100 houses is the definition of a major application. You never see an application for 100 houses in the historic landscape. Indeed, I doubt if you see it in many of the villages in rural Rother, irrespective of whether in the heritage landscape or not. So it seems to me we are effectively saying one public speaker only. On the other hand, I do welcome the change made by the Audit Committee, which was to lengthen out the speech to 5 minutes, because I think really a single speaker speaking often for the first time in public really takes a bit of time to get into their stride, and therefore the 5 minutes is right. I don't think in the end I'm going to vote against this on the grounds of the size of the application, but I thought I ought to express some doubts about it, because I know that most villages in the rural area are very concerned about this.
Thank you for explaining your position. Councillor Thill, please.
Thank you. I wasn't going to say anything, but I would say on the subject of large applications in villages, just one word, Blackfriars, an application for 200 houses in Battle in the AONB. Not without its problems, but it's there and it's a large application. And actually, given that all councils are going to be required to deliver many more houses than is currently the case, how that happens, if it's possible to happen, I have no idea, but I think it's very wise to have that part in the report because we don't know what's going to happen in the future and we have had experience of it happening in the past.
Councillor Field, to have a further speaker on this topic. There being none, I shall now move to the vote. So this is the the proposed changes to the public speaking scheme at Planning Committee. Those in favour of those changes, please show. Thank you very much indeed. And those against, please show. Thank you very much. And anybody abstaining, please? Thank you. Right, so that is carried. And now we come to the next one, which is Councillor Osborne again. AC 2018, Budget Setting Initiatives requiring constitutional changes, the democratic structure and processes. Councillor Osborne, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just in time, I've only got 5% power left. Yeah, I did sit in on the audit committee a couple of weeks ago, but the chairman, in his wisdom, changed the reign order. So the bit I wanted to speak to, I ran out of time and couldn't make, so that was unfortunate. The recommendation, I've got a problem with 2 and 4. It might have been nice for the scrutiny committee to have been asked. But we've got scrutiny committee be scheduled to meet formally 6 times per year, plus 2 additional meetings to be held over MS Teams. I would prefer that if there was time, that I could actually put that to the committee, for the committee to make that decision. Do they support that or not? Equally, item 4 on there of the recommendation, number of members appointed to overrule the scrutiny, licensing and general purposes committee. I'm not really bothered about them, but overrule and scrutiny committee be reduced from 12 to 10 members. Again, I'd prefer if that could have gone before the committee and asked them sort of formally to put a vote on that. You know, we do a lot of work, and there's a lot of debate sometimes. Maybe less members would shorten that debate, but I think it would probably harm that debate. So I just thought I'd make that point. Chairman, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there further contributions on that point, please? Councillor Cook, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's seriously not a put-up job, but actually I absolutely agree with everything that Councillor Osborne has said. We've had a lot of training and a lot of reviews made about the overview and scrutiny. And to my knowledge, never has the number of members been questioned, or never has it been suggested we make it smaller. We also did very briefly discuss at our last overview and scrutiny, and all the members were really quite encouraged us to speak and say we really wanted our meetings to be in person because it's just so much better and easier to have a debate. Thank you.
Councillor Barnes, please.
I fear, Chairman, this is another example where the representativeness of the committee does matter. We have a very large district. You have an overview and scrutiny, which has been pretty effective over the years. Everybody praises it, and yet somehow you're going now to reduce its numbers to 10, which makes it, by definition, less representative of this council and less representative of the district. I feel bound to say I do not understand the logic.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Councillor, sorry, yourself.
Councillor Burton. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm all a member of Overview and Scrutiny, and I've felt that we've always had a very thorough and wide debate, and our training has been extensive, which has paid dividends. And I would like to query the point of the 2 informal meetings, in that our recent training said that Overview and Scrutiny should not have reports that were for noting. And that was part of the recent training that we had. If that could be considered. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Burton and Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. I don't really have particularly strong views either way on this issue. Only to make the point that I believe, as long as they're not members of Cabinet, any member can attend an Overview and Scrutiny meeting, can speak to that meeting if there is an issue that they particularly care about, or if they're worried about representation for a particular area in that instance, then they can attend. And I'm reminded of a member who's no longer a member of this council from last term, who I believe attended every single Overview and Scrutiny meeting despite not being on that committee, and spoke to most issues. So I think that's testament to the power of the non-substantive member of committee to still attend and speak on issues. Cheers.
You, Councillor Coleman, clearly above and beyond. I have Councillor Creaser online now, please. Councillor Creaser and then Councillor Maynard.
Thank you. As you may be aware, I have been able to come over this evening because I'm not well. And I have to say that Overview and Scrutiny are a very, very important part of our behaviour as a councillor and council, and I feel it would be a real misstep to not have the meetings in person, and like some of my other colleagues, getting to council can be quite a challenge for me because I have quite serious health issues. Having said that, I think it is important that we are able to contribute to the discussion. So in terms of obviously also a member of the planning committee, and for myself and others who have physical and distance challenges, I think it is very important for us to make that available. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Creaser. Councillor Maynard, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm more comfortable with this one than I was with the Planning Committee, because one is a quasi-judicial committee and one is a scrutiny committee. And I do think that we have seen on scrutiny...
Sorry, it was necessary to have that. And, do continue, Councillor Maynard.
Thank you. We did it last time, but it doesn't go the other way, does it? We had a situation
Councillor Maynard, sorry, can I just point out that people around this room are exceptionally good at listening to each other. The way in which everybody has listened to each other in this debate has been absolutely exemplary. And the only reason why I've had to mention your name once or twice is because you do seem to, in some respects, to be a bit of the serial offender in relation to this. But I'm very, very happy to hear what you've got to say.
Chairman, every time I've stood up to speak, you've been speaking while I've been speaking. That's why I'm irritated,
The Chief
Chairman.
Executive...
No, let's just finish there.
Excuse me. The Chief Executive had something she needed to say to me, and she said it very, very quietly, without a microphone on, so there was no reason why you should feel in any way interrupted or impeded in speaking to the entire Assembly with your microphone on. Please continue. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. It's nice not to be interrupted. So I'm more comfortable with this one than obviously the long debate that we've had more than once over the Planning Committee. I think from what the Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny, and indeed the Vice Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee have said, that it would be sensible perhaps to defer to allow that committee to debate the issue so that the members of the scrutiny committee can feel that they've had an input. I'm quite relaxed about that, but if it moves it on, Chairman, I'm quite happy to propose deferment on that particular issue so that the scrutiny committee can discuss the issue. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Councillor Oliver, please.
Yes, I'd just like to say I think that's a very sensible way of approaching this. I've been really, the way that scrutiny has been operating over this last little while, I think is really the role that they play. And I know that officers value what comes out of the scrutiny committee, as does Cabinet. And I think that, you know, with a chair that's been an incumbent for quite a long time, I think it's important that we allow it go back to the committee and the vice chair and let them take the matter forward.
Very much. Councillor Trayson, please.
Thank you, Chair. If we do defer 4, presumably the Licensing and General Purpose Committee will also have an opportunity to talk about their reduction, or are we singling out the overdue scrutiny?
It's a logical conclusion to reach, Councillor Trayson. Do I have any further speakers, please? Councillor Ganley.
It seems to me that this is a solution searching for a problem to solve. Thank you.
Thank you for that brevity, Councillor Ganley. Councillor Osborne, please.
Yeah, if I may, just to confirm, Chairman, if I'm happy to second the idea of 2 and 4 coming out and going back to scrutiny for a discussion. Yeah. Being deferred. Thank you.
So, in that further comments?
I'm just saying, with the Licensing and General Purposes Committee, obviously we meet less, so would there be necessary, your Chairman of Licensing have a view?
Well, I think just in the interest of consistency, the two should go together. But yes, I mean, others having spoken, but I strongly am of the view when constitutional changes are proposed to a committee, that committee should have the chance to comment in a formal meeting, definitely.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. Okay. So now I think we move now to a vote on each individual proposal, bearing in mind that 2 and 4 are not going to be deferred. Okay. So I will read out the ones which remain. The first one is that Cabinet is scheduled to meet every 6 weeks, that is to say 9 times a year. Those in favour of that proposal, please show.
It's
carried. Carried overwhelmingly. That's the first one. Now, number 2 is deferred, so number 3, at the start of each... Oh, yes, on 2, the suggestion has been made that we should agree that it be deferred. So all those in favour of the deferment as proposed, please show. That's, I think it's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. So now we come on to 3. At the start of each civic year, following the appointments to committees, the membership of each committee considers whether it is possible to meet during the day and agree the time of day that best suits the membership. Those in favour, please show. Again, I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Now, the next one, 4 is the proposal for deferment, so let's vote on that. Those in favour of deferring 4, please show. And that is again, I think, unanimous. Sorry, Councillor Mary Barnes. Yep, you're happy. Okay, good. And next is 5. The policy in relation to the payment of travelling expenses to attend formal committee meetings be amended to permit committee members only the right to claim travelling expenses to the Town Hall as outlined in paragraphs 18 to 24 of the report and be reviewed 1 year from implementation. Those in favour of that, please show.
Yeah.
Carried. But I think I would just take against. I think a significant number. Those against, please show. And are there any abstentions? There's one, I think, yeah. Anyway, that is carried. Is there any more? There's 6 again, isn't it?
Yes,
Yes, and 6 is another example of something that follows from the other. Namely, the Chief Executive be authorised to make the necessary amendments to the Constitution in consultation with the monitoring officer. Those... Sorry, Councillor Ganley? Oh, you're about to vote? Okay, no. I was just warned by the Vice Chair there, in case you were going to raise something else. but not the case. Okay. Those in favour, please show.
I think that's carried, Chair.
I think we can say that's carried, can't we? Okay. So now we move to item...
Sorry,
Councillor?
could I just check?
Yeah.
The bit about travelling to the town hall, that presumably excludes claiming travelling for site visits for the planning committee.
We know the answer to that one?
We took that side.
That was taken out. So that's all right. Okay? Yeah?
We've just agreed that we will only pay expenses to the town hall. So that means we don't pay expenses for people travelling to site visits.
Thank you. Let me just clarify that. Will we be paying travelling expenses to those travelling to planning meetings? We will be. I think that's the answer you wanted to hear. I think. Yeah?
Sorry, it is the answer I wanted, and I will say I'm not a member of the planning committee, but it's not what it says here.
Councillor Taylor is questioning whether what's written is in conflict with that answer.
Chairman, if it's helpful, I thought
Yes,
it was one of those
Councillor Maynard.
exceptions.
Yes.
And indeed, the other exception, as far as I recall, which I was going to raise my hand to speak on but didn't get there in time, was that it was for those who were coming along to speak at planning committee as local members. And that needed amplifying as well, Chairman.
So to clarify, from now on, the rule will be if you're coming to a planning committee or just simply to speak or whatever, that will be covered, those expenses will be paid as now. Thank you very much. I hope that clarifies things. Okay? Thank you very much. That's excellent. Okay, so now we go to the next agenda item. Is that right? We do, yeah. Okay, now we've reached agenda item 10. Okay? Councillor Mayor, please.
Chair, I move that the meeting receive the report of the Licensing and General Purposes Committee on matters for determination by full council at the meeting today, as under the 23rd of September 2024, Taxi Licensing Policy 2024, LG 2413, and Gambling Act 2005, Statement of Principles 2025 to 2028, LG 24 to 14. Are they being called over?
Okay, I now call over the report. So the first one is the 23rd of September, LG 2413, Taxi Licensing Policy 2024. Nobody on that one. LG 2414, the Gambling Act 2005, Statement of Principle. Anybody on that one? No? Right. So as no minutes have been called for the debate, we now move to the vote. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor, thank you very much, Councillor Stanger. So those in favour of approving that report, please show. And those against, please show. And any abstentions? There are none. So I declare that to be carried. And now we proceed to item 11. Now, item 11, sorry, let me move forward a bit here. Yes, so now this is the appointment. Here we go. Right. So this is the report of the Chief Executive on an appointment to an LGA Special Interest Group. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chair. We've been invited by this LGA Special Group to have a representative, and I would like to move the report of the Chief Executive be approved and adopted, and that Councillor Projac be appointed to the Local Government Association Special Interest Group. the Internal Drainage Board levies on council finances.
Thank you very much, Councillor Oliver. Are there any other nominations to serve on this outside body? I can see everybody is rushing to actually volunteer, but I noticed that you managed to restrain yourself somehow. Councillor Prochak, please.
I'm so honoured. I joined the IDB, I dread to think how many years ago now, at least since 2000, when Robertsbridge flooded dramatically with over 100 buildings with floodwater in them. And so I joined every body that had to do with water. And I've been on the IDB since then. The problem with the IDBs, in case you didn't know, is that actually the levy counts towards our council tax threshold. Now, we're lucky in Rother because it's not a huge amount. In other areas, it's a massive amount. So there's a huge problem there for other councils, not particularly for us, although it would be good, whatever we paid, to actually not count towards our threshold. So just thought you'd like to know that.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the information. As there are no other nominations, I declare that Councillor Prochak has been appointed to that committee. Thank you very much. Now we come to item 12, at which point I will vacate the chair. Actually, I'll just hand over to Councillor Mear. And this is to receive the report of the Chief Executive on an appointment to the Council's Housing Company. So I hand over to you.
Do you need to move to one side? Council. Yes, item 12 is to approve the appointment of Councillor Simon McGurk as Company Director to the Board of Rother DC Housing Company Limited. And do I have a proposer for that? Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Stanger. Does anyone wish to speak? If nobody wishes to speak, we move to a vote. And all those in favour?
I want to speak.
Who?
That's Councillor Creaser. I want to speak.
Councillor Creaser, I shall be generous and let you speak because I couldn't see you because of the technology. Yes, please speak.
Don't be so patronising. There is no need for that. At the end of the day, I would like to ask Councillor McGurk if he actually wants to be elected. Thank you.
Would you accept this if offered?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor McGurk confirmed that he would accept the honour should this meeting vote in favour. So those in favour, vote now. Are you counting? Yep. Then that's carried nem con, I believe. None against? No? None. Thank you. With that, I hand back to Councillor Richard Thomas.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mear. Can I just really reiterate that the problems we have had here are problems with technology and they're not the fault of any individual. So, Councillor Creaser, just to reassure you, it was simply a technological problem whereby we didn't know that you were anxious to speak. But you did have your opportunity. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we move to the other motion. Namely, in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 13, consideration be given to the motion to Council, which has been submitted by Councillor Ganley, as detailed in the agenda. So, Councillor Ganley.
Thank you, Chairman. There's very little I can add to this motion, which speaks for itself. I simply remind you of the second sentence, which says the authoritative estimates by Age UK, amongst others, that not less than 2 million pensioners who badly need the money to stay warm this winter will not receive any help. We all know that Rother has a higher proportion of elderly people than most councils. And they will be subject to a choice. They will have to make a decision to heat or to eat. Finally, I would ask for a recorded vote, Chairman. So you want 4 members?
Thank you, that's Councillor Ganley. Do I have the seconder to the motion, please? Councillor Clark.
Councillor Gordon.
I think you were the first to show. And now the question of the recorded vote, so we make sure that this is done. Can I see 4 people, please, who wish to have a recorded vote? I can see more than that, so recorded vote it will be. Thank you very much. Councillor Clark.
Yeah. Can I speak to the motion, please?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you very much. I intended to submit a similar motion to this at the last full council, but I put it in too late. So Councillor Gamley has put in pretty much only what I was going to put. So this is not me politically supporting the Conservative motion. I don't really think that. What it is, Councillor Oliver, some time ago, very kindly appointed me as the Cabinet spokesman for older people in Rother. So it's only right I second this motion. And I take my role very seriously. Every council's duty is to protect vulnerable residents. Every year in East Sussex, 300 people die of hypothermia, mainly because their houses were not warm enough. Winter fuel allowance withdrawal was not mentioned during the general election. Labour won a number of seats at the last election by a handful of votes. Had residents been aware of the withdrawal, some results may have been different. Pensioners do not deserve to be treated like this. Most started work at 15 years of age and work 50 years paying their taxes. They are the backbone of our society. I've spoken to many residents in my ward who are over 80. That £300 was a godsend. It meant they could keep the heating on for the coldest months of the year. Now they're concerned. We all know older people hate owing money. If they think they will run a fuel bill up they can't pay, they will turn the heating off. Only 1.5 million people get pension credit. Of 12 people recently I tried to help, only one was successful. The irony is, for many years we've been told by governments the state pension will not be enough for you to live on. Get yourself a private and second pension. And because millions of people have done that, they're now over the threshold. One lady I tried to help was £80 over. So the income was too high. I do understand that there's difficult times, but we are a rich country and there are other ways for governments to save money. This motion crosses party boundaries. There are Labour voters in my ward who don't agree with this but don't want to speak out publicly. Please support the older residents in Rother District Council and show that we care about their health and well-being. We can't change the law, but what we can do is show that we care about our people, our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Do I have a further speaker on this subject? I think Councillor Coleman was the third. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Like I'm sure all colleagues in this room, I take the issue of pensioner poverty really seriously. And I think I was in a meeting just the other day, which was in relation to the government's new child poverty strategy, and was in consultation about that. And we heard from several speakers across local government who talked about the fact that they're relieved that they can finally use the word poverty in the corridors of Whitehall once again. And I think the work that we've done on this council to try and combat poverty against a very harsh economic backdrop is proof that every single member here cares about this issue, whether it's the anti-poverty strategy we passed, the voluntary introduction of the socio-economic duty, the re-establishment of 100% council tax reduction for working age people, as well as pensioners. And indeed our support in committees and in conversations for the continuation of the Household Support Fund, the work of our Equality Steering Group in pursuing issues, particularly around poverty, including around pensioner poverty. And as chair of that group and as member for Wellbeing, Equalities and Age-Friendly Communities, I've been actively involved in establishing that this council is doing everything it can to alleviate the unfortunate impact of those people who are on the cusp of qualification for pension credit or may not have realised that they qualify for it. And I've been very encouraged by the hard work of our staff and our officers to identify the households in the district where there is likely to be someone who qualifies for pension credit but who does not yet receive it, and the efforts of our staff to contact those individuals to try and encourage them to claim pension credit so that they can also be accepted for the winter fuel payments. However, I think if Councillor Ganley was serious, and I believe to a degree he is about his intentions on this issue, I believe there would have been a motion in front of us that aimed to create unity in the council, that aimed to put the issue of pensioner poverty at the centre of the motion. And instead what we've got here is something that's very clearly political, has parts in it that are very clearly designed so that certain members in this room will feel compelled to vote against it. And then, of course, they call for a recorded vote so that the next election they can try and claim that councillors here have voted one way or another on an issue that is not as they claim it to be. And as my position as portfolio holder, I can offer this to the council, that in the new year I will be bringing forward something to council on this issue of pensioner poverty, so that we can both establish what we're doing as a council, areas where we could possibly improve.
Councillor Coleman.
Sorry?
10 seconds.
10 seconds. So we can improve the council and also any sort of conversations we want to have with the government about future policies. But this is a political motion and I will be voting against it. Not because I somehow want to see pensioners impoverished, which is what I think they're trying to make us out to be, but because actually I care about pensioner poverty and I want to deal with the issue properly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Councillor John Barnes.
I'm desperately sorry, Chairman, that Councillor Coleman has made this political. Because I'm sorry, one of the major trade unions in this country is bringing a court action at the moment against the government. Wide range of bodies, none of them political, have actually looked at this issue and said that the government are going about it the wrong way and in the wrong manner. People who are certainly not members of the Conservative Party are absolutely agitated about this. The government didn't do an impact assessment statement, and when they finally got round to looking at this, they have said that at least 50,000 more people will be plunged into poverty by this. But worse than that, we know that the number of deaths is going to go up because the people just above this threshold limit will actually be faced with an awful choice of whether they heat their homes or whether they feed themselves. And this payment put in place by Gordon Brown was a godsend. The way he did it is questionable because I personally don't need a winter fuel allowance. But there were ways, and the motion refers to them. You could bring it into taxable income. There were ways put forward by independent experts that you could relate it in some way to council tax bands. The government have chosen to go nowhere with this. They are going to actually pay a price in terms of people dying. And frankly, to make this political, what we need is a second thought by the government to find a different mechanism and one which helps people much better than pension credit, because frankly, if you try and look at a pension credit form, I defy an expert in Times crossword puzzles to find their way through.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Can I just... Sorry, Councillor Maynard, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm surprised to hear Labour members chuckle when we talk about this particular issue because it is a serious one. And it's been highlighted as a serious one not only by the Conservative Party, but just about by every charity in this country that is involved with older people, as well as members of the Labour Party themselves. And I have to say, if there ever was an opportunity for an incoming government to bring in a policy and then do a U-turn that was quite legitimate, it was on this particular policy. Because it is quite clear, Chairman, that it is not only actual poverty, as Councillor Coleman rightly alludes to, but it's also a perception. What do I mean by that? Quite simply, there are many people in this constituency, in this district rather, that are asset rich, cash poor. There are many people that perceive, because obviously we're talking about older people, there are people that perceive themselves to be worse off by that reduction of that allowance, who will, by the fact that it's their very nature, to turn the heating down this winter because they think they need to. And Age UK, for example, are saying now 1 in 5 pensioners are planning to eat less this winter due to the cut. That's Age UK. So that will mean also that 2 million will find their energy bills a real stretch because of the increase in the overall cost of living, especially in terms of heating and electric. So we see ourselves, I think, Chairman, in a difficult situation whereby there needs to be a clear message to government. I think it is trying to defend the indefensible. And I think, quite frankly, when you have every major UK charity saying this is a bad idea, this will make people ill, this will cost lives, that's all any a politician should really need to know to just reverse that decision. And that's why, quite frankly, Chairman, I would have expected, given there are a number of people within the Labour Party that don't support this measure, I would have thought we'd have had a unanimity in this chamber this evening, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Councillor Prochak, please.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think anybody in this room could basically disagree with what's been said already. Government figures for Bexhill and Battle constituency, not Rotherham, Bexhill and Battle, show only 9.2% of people receiving state pension qualify for the revised winter fuel allowance. Now, this indicates, as I think you've suggested already, this indicates that changes to the winter fuel allowance scheme for Rother residents is a serious issue. And we have done an awful lot on this council. Our office has done a huge amount, and East Sussex as well, to actually ameliorate the reduction. Why I'm going to say I can't support the proposal is the wording. It's not been carefully worded at all. I've got a feeling it would be great to go to scrutiny and actually really find out what would help these pensioners. But the wording of this motion doesn't do the job. The wording of the motion says, withdraw the current proposal. It's not a current proposal. It's the law. And you haven't asked them to change the law, which you can't. So the wording is woolly and doesn't work. And if the Conservative group could remember, you've all voted against the Climate and Nature Bill because you said it wasn't on the table. And this is another example of a proposal that's not on the table because it can't be done. We've got to find other ways of doing it. And the ways of doing it is to work together with our officers and identify, and we're already doing that with a special app, identify those residents who could qualify. Because that's really, really a difficult thing to do. You can't change the law, rather District Council cannot change the law. So I would like to see a better proposal come forward, something with more teeth, something that actually hits the problem, and maybe scrutiny can look at it because we have ideas that perhaps the government don't have.
Thank you, Councillor Prochak. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to declare an interest, as Councillor Mrs Prochak has mentioned, East Sussex County Council are declaring an interest, personal interest, not prejudicial one, as executive member of East Sussex County Council.
Thank you.
So, I've been accused of being political. All I can say is the alliance is now being political, if you don't mind me saying. Thank you.
Have another speaker on this subject, please. Councillor Drayson, please.
It's more a question for you, Chair. If we vote on this and we accept or reject, but particularly if we reject it, I don't think we can bring it back in a different format for 6 months, can we?
Councillor, I don't believe we could bring back a motion that would be very much contradicting this motion if we reject it. But I think that there would be an opportunity to put forward a motion which actually outlines a different way of approaching the subject. So I think there would be a potential to put a second motion dealing with the subject of pensioner poverty and the effects of the current situation. There would be an opportunity to produce another motion on this at a subsequent meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Are there any further contributions to this very important subject? There appear to be none, and so we now move to the recorded vote, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Right, members, I shall call out your names alphabetically. Please answer for, against or abstain. And just to remind those online, you won't be asked for your vote. John Barnes. For. Mary Barnes. For. Bayliss. Against. Biggs. For. Burton. Against. Byrne. Against. Chowdhury. Against. Clark. For. Coleman.
Against.
Mrs. Cook. For. Delaney. Drayson. Field. Ganley. Gordon.
For.
Gray. Against. Groner. Hacking. Hayward. Legg. Maynard. McCourt.
Against.
McGurk. Mear. Oliver. Osborne. Pearce. Proshak. Rathbone Ariel.
Against.
Stanger.
Against.
Thomas.
For.
Winter.
Right, I declare the motion lost by 13 votes for, 18 against and 1 abstention. So we've come to the end of our meeting tonight. We've also come to the end of the year, and I would just like to end by saying I did make a remark about democracy earlier on in the meeting. I just think tonight's debate, the way in which you have all conducted this debate, has been absolutely exemplary. I think it is a splendid example of democracy in action. I'd like to thank you all and wish you all a very happy and peaceful Christmas. The very best to you all. Thank you.